Who is Childs on the beat? Best producer in Louisiana. If you don't believe me, go to his YouTube page and check him out. My name is Sidney Combs, and I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with a dollar and a dream. The message for tonight is, pick a side. The message for tonight is, pick a side. Had a conversation with someone, and it was a great conversation, very great conversation. And this conversation, it came all the way down to picking a side, okay? There was a situation that happened in the public eye with entertainers. And they made decisions that I didn't agree with. And the person that I was talking to felt like, at the end of the day, if they decide to do that, that's their business. There's nothing wrong with it. That's their choice, how they feel. And I asked the person a question. I said, are you for right or are you for wrong? And the person basically was in the gray area. They wasn't for right or they wasn't for wrong. And I think that's a huge problem in the society in this day and age. People struggle to pick a side. So what they do, they stay on the fence. And it's kind of amazing because I'm not a pastor. But a lot of these same people will say that they're Christian. But then I say, okay then, well, if your Bible tells you something that's right, okay, right and wrong, you say you believe in the religion. Well, how is it that you struggle to know what's right and wrong and you say, well, if they cool with it or if it's accepted? I'm like, well, hold on for a second. There's a standard in the Bible. Okay? That's if you believe it. If you don't, you don't. But then even if you don't believe the Bible, well, what are your beliefs? What do you believe in? Or are you still picking a side? Because I don't think you have to believe in Christianity or Muslim or whatever you choose to believe in, but you should still be able to pick a side and say what's right and what's wrong. And most of the time, everything is in a gray area. I don't understand that. I'm like, okay, what that shows me is a person that's not good with decision making. So what happens with that is you don't get results in life because of that. See, picking a side is so important because you have to know what's right and what's wrong, because if you don't know what's right and wrong to you, what that let me know is you have no beliefs, you don't believe in anything. You don't stand on anything. I don't want to be around a person that don't stand for nothing. If every single thing you do is about in a gray area, it's if they feel like it, when you say the feel word, that rub me the wrong way. I don't understand it. You feel like, I'm like, okay, I can feel a certain type of way, but then I still have a standard to what's right and what's wrong. And when people be in this gray area, it throws me off. Just because you're a person trying to promote an album, it does not mean you have to do things that are not right. And then you make that as an excuse. Well, I'm trying to promote an album, so hey, it is what it is. Well, hey, I was trying to feed my kids, so hey, it is what it is. And see, this is the catch to what I'm saying, right? I'm not even telling you to be perfect. But what I am saying is this. When you do wrong, just accept that that's wrong. But what a lot of people do, they do wrong, and then they try to say, well, it's what they choose to do. And I'm like, that's still wrong. If someone said, hey, if a woman said, hey, I did what I had to do to feed my child, right? Right? If it's immorality, it's still wrong. It doesn't make it right because you come up with a good excuse. You say, well, at the end of the day, I was promoting the album, so I did things that wasn't right because I was trying to promote the album. It's still wrong. It doesn't make it right because you come up with whatever excuse in your head you want to come up with, or because you feel a certain type of way. And then we live in a society where people are scared to pick a side. I'm picking a side. I don't think everything is in a gray area. There's a right or wrong. Just that simple. And I think in the culture we struggle with that so much. We struggle with it. And then we wonder why the problems get worse and worse and worse. I'll give you an example, right? Let's say at the end of the day, you're a person when you feel like, I'm all about family, about building culture, okay? Let's say that that's the type of person that you say you are. That's the type of person I say I am. So if you're a person that want to make kids with different individuals, and then you say, well, that's their prerogative. No, that's not. To me, that's wrong. Now, at the end of the day, this is what you got to be careful to understand. We all mess up, but the standard corrects us. The standard makes us make better decisions. But when everything is in a gray area, you're going to keep doing whatever you want to do. And then we sit there and we ask ourselves, well, dog, man, that person been doing the same thing for 20 years. They haven't been growing at all in their life. Why haven't they? Because they don't have a standard. They don't pick a side. They don't pick a side. So if you don't pick a side, right, who's to stop you from doing wrong? Who's to stop you from doing wrong if there's not a standard, if there's not a right and a wrong? How do you become the best version of yourself if everything is in a gray area? If everything is in a gray area, how do you become the best version of yourself? To me, if a man don't work, he don't eat. What they're telling you is, I think if a man not working, he's wrong. Period. Unless you're going to tell me he has an illness or he been in the hospital, but a pure healthy guy that's not working, to me that's wrong. Do you know there are certain people that will argue with me on that and say, well, that's their business, that's how they feel. That's crazy. We shouldn't argue about everything in the world. There's certain things where we should be able to say, hey man, that's wrong. If a man and a woman being promiscuous, okay, we should be able to say, hey man, that's wrong. We shouldn't be able to stop and say, well, they're young, so it's okay. No, it's wrong. But we're scared to say that because we worry about criticism. I don't care about your criticism or anybody else's criticism. It's wrong. Most people don't believe in anything. People don't believe in nothing in this day and age. People live a life where they like, hey man, shoot, it is what it is. You hear that phrase more than anything, it is what it is. And then normally when I talk to these group of people, they don't get results in their life, and they actually wonder why. But if you don't stand on anything, right? At the end of the day, how will you be able to get to a goal and a dream? How? Because one of the things I noticed, the average person that do that, they're lazy. So when you're a lazy individual, right, and you're not doing the best that you can do, right, that person don't have self-awareness to say, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm being lazy. That's wrong. Let me do better. Let me work harder. But the average person can't grow because at the end of the day, they never think they're wrong. They won't pick a side. Because they're so worried about offending everybody else. And you just look at you like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Then you hear the same people say, don't judge other people. Right? So let me make sure I got this right. If I was to come out and say, hey man, at the end of the day, right, I don't think that you should steal from someone. Okay? I think that's wrong. So if a person came up to me and said, well, I stole because at the end of the day, I was hungry, I didn't have a job. I don't turn around and say, well, that's okay, man, shoot. At the end of the day, your circumstance, I understand your circumstance. No, I picked the side. Stealing is wrong. No matter how you try to twist it and turn it, it's wrong. Why do we live in a culture where we can't even admit what's right and what's wrong? And we argue with people over this. And normally these people are supposed to be religious people. They'll argue with you with this. And at the end of the day, I'm not a pastor. But I'm just trying to figure this out. One of the 10 commandments I thought was thou shalt not steal. And you know, people will sit there and say, they can't sit there and say if someone steal, hey man, that's wrong. It doesn't even say, well, if you do this, you're wrong. Thou shalt not steal. I don't get it. Thou shalt not kill. But if someone kill, we'll say, well, at the end of the day, man, hey, this what it is. Now, I'm not telling you not to protect your life. But even when you protect your life, you still got to be able to say, hey, man, that wasn't right. But I had to do what I had to do. We don't even get to a point of understanding what's right and what's wrong. They think, man, thou shalt not commit adultery. But you know what we'll do? We'll make an excuse up for that. Instead of saying, you know what? I was wrong. I made mistakes in the past. It wasn't right. I messed up. We live in a world where people will not pick a side. So how can you ever get to a point of becoming the best version of yourself when everything is, well, it's not your business. It is what it is. Don't worry about what I'm doing. And it's like, that's cool, but do you worry about what you're doing? It's not a standard anymore. Back in the day, there used to be a standard when you did things. It's not a standard anymore. And then people won't pick a side because nobody wants criticism. By me saying thou shalt not commit adultery, there's someone that's commits adultery, and you know what they do? You know what they'll do? They'll sit there right now and complain and get mad at me. They will. I live with someone I'm not married to. That's wrong. Like, I don't understand how, like, just because you do wrong, right? And at the end of the day, I'm trying to right the wrong, whether for the good, for the bad. And it's like, people can't even much understand that, yo, this is wrong. It's not right. We don't pick a side in anything. Our kids can disrespect someone. You know what we'll do? We'll go to the grown-up. Hey. Instead of saying, hold on, son. You shouldn't have disrespected that grown-up. Now, I can deal with the grown-up also. But the child was still wrong for his part. But what we got to do is we don't even pick a side. And say, hey, man, that's wrong. Hey, man, that's right. Struggle with that. I struggle with that. Is it right or is it wrong? Is it right or is it wrong? It's that simple. Excuse me. And like I say, I'm not a pastor. But the same people will say, I'm Christian. And you're like, okay. Well, you're Christian, but you struggle with what's right and what's wrong. And then you'll have people that say they represent Christ. They represent God. Or whatever other religion. Right? They represent Allah. They're Muslims. Jehovah's Witness. Catholic, right? And then they do things that they know is not right. And they don't even have the courage to say, you know what? I was wrong for what I did. That's not right. And then some people will say, well, why is it your business what famous people do? That's what some people say. You know why it's my business? Because I don't have a child yet, but what if I did have a child? My child watching that individual. What if I got nieces and nephews, but they pay attention to the individual? What about that? What about the next generation of youth that's paying attention to them? See, we don't think that way because we think our little world is the most important. Our little thinking is the most important. That's why I don't care when people say how they feel. Well, I feel like it's not your business. It is your business because you got the next generation. So these same people can have granddaughters. And they can see a woman not acting right that's famous. And then they'll say, well, that's not my problem. Yeah, but your granddaughter can be watching these people. Your grandson can be watching these people and being programmed by these people. And then somebody might say, well, at the end of the day, all you gotta do is limit what they watch. All right, that's cool. But watch this for a second. What if they spend the night over a cousin's house and the cousin has access? You get what I'm saying? Like, it still can somehow happen. And then you're the same person saying it doesn't matter. But if you're telling your child, hey son, that's not right what that woman did. That's not right what that man did. Now that changes things because you picked a side. If you're a person that don't want to pick a side, I don't want you around me because you're dangerous. I don't want you around me. I mean that. For every single person in my life, if you can't pick a side, I don't want you around me because you're dangerous. Because that shows me your mindset. That shows me the character. That shows me who you are as a person. When you don't stand for nothing, you shouldn't want a friend like that. You shouldn't want to be in a relationship with someone like that. They don't stand for anything, nothing. See, it's one thing to mess up. It's one thing to commit a sin. It's another thing when you can't even say that that's a sin or you did wrong. So the whole point of this message, the whole purpose of this message is that if you want to become the best version of yourself, you have to pick a side. You have to hold yourself accountable. And you cannot hold yourself accountable when you are not picking a side. When whatever it is you do, you can find an excuse for it. You can. My name is Sidney Combs, and I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with a dollar dream. I need everyone to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube page. This is a powerful message. We need to get as many people as possible to listen to this message right here. Because the world is getting to a point where there's no right and there's no wrong. It's just whatever you feel like doing. Whatever you feel like doing. And the same people tell you they're religious. And I'm like, I'm not a pastor. But you trying to tell me there's no right and wrong, but you believe in a religion? Whatever religion it is. I don't care what the religion is. Because even if your religion, you might say, hey, well, I can have more than one wife. That's cool, but there's something else in that religion that's not right. There's still a right and a wrong. Whatever it is. What are your beliefs? What do you believe in? And if you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Who and Child's on the Beat, best producer in Louisiana. If you don't believe me, go to his YouTube page and check him out. I need as many people as possible to comment on this video. I want to hear how you feel about this video. I want to hear your perspective. I want to hear it. And I check all the comments. I will respond. I promise you. My name is Sidney Combs. I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with Dollar Dreams.